Right, now I'll have that from you. Thank you, my dear. Now, to that, you add the butter in flakes with a well-scrubbed hand. As I think I've said to you already, you can't cook without using your hands. The fascinating thing about this is that, in theory, it's the
At the time when you think it's the 60s, there was a lot going on. There was obviously the LSD and everything was psychedelic and fantastic colours and flowers. So, I mean, she incorporated all it, not the LSD, but she incorporated the flowers and the colours into her cooking.
Fanny Cradock's cooking suffers from the same thing she does, really, which is too much makeup.
one more tuft into that.
It's about social climbing, impressing your husband's boss. Suburban snobbery at its worst, really.
A lot of the dishes she made were rather sort of make you sit up, but they were in keeping with the times that were emerging. They were new ideas, and we had to have new ideas.
For the ultimate in cool canapes, plunge hard-boiled eggs into a bowl of cold water with vegetable colouring. Slice off the broad end of the egg, add a strip of anchovy fillet, and pipe generously with mayonnaise.
We had this huge tunnel that was supposed to look like a big wine cellar, where Graham would come running in and shaking everybody's hand. My memory of him, and I think it's a very important memory because it's another stage forward, that was meeting the audience much more.
In 1969, Graham Kerr presented what is probably the most successful cooking show on TV, The Galloping Gourmet.
He was very informal. He represented the kind of informality, the breakthrough of informality in television.
You squeeze lemon juice and 3 pips into the bottle.
I just remember smiling at the television, being so turned on with the style, the panache of the man.
You pour that down onto the top of there and light it.
And he made it fun, I think. I think he was probably the first character to make it fun.
He brought the idea of entertainment and food, pleasure and food together on television 20 years before many of the rest of us caught up with the idea.
Graham and Trina Kerr were now a double act, and they frequently appeared together in the short and quirky films that began many of the programs.
She was supposed to be a formidable personality, and in fact, many ways, the person who made him. She was his producer, and in the early days, I think also his director. And she positioned him, explained what to do, arranged the kind of interaction between the audience. All of those things were her guidance.
The set was made into like 3 acts. So bringing the theatre in a strange way into television. So this was Act 1, where the story was told. He came through from telling his story. He could go straight into the kitchen.
We ought to have a little soul music whilst we're doing this, don't you? Just a trifle, little soul music.
The actual set itself had this terrible sort of Playboy's penthouse type of style. You know, I think it had sort of rough stone walls. You know, it was all very much like a very sophisticated bachelor pad, and he came across as a man of the world. You know, very sort of Bond-esque figure. Only surprisingly, he was dealing with food.
You add to that half an onion. Now, half an onion, which is finely sliced, up into the most incredibly thin slices that you can possibly manage, you see, like that. All right. Now, this you like that?
That intriguing juxtaposition of Sean Connery, as it were, and cookery was, I think, what immediately aroused public interest, because no one had ever done anything with food like that before on television.
Sitting there in solitary splendor with Trina, very early one morning, just after we'd had that dip, We had breakfast right at those tables there. Nobody else around, and we had eggs Benedict.
I wanted to go around the world. That was my thing. I didn't want to just read it out of a book. I'd done that stuff and pretended that I knew. And to pretend, now that we had a budget where you could actually do it, and I could learn about it and taste it on location, this is fabulous stuff for me.
Season beefsteaks and sear in hot, clarified butter, then set aside. Add mushrooms to the pan and flame in brandy. Set aside. Mix foie gras, brandy and cream in the pan, then add horseradish sauce. Pour over the steaks and mushrooms and serve.
I went to the Tour d'Argent in Paris and the Hotel Meurice, which had collops of tenderloin sautéed copiously in butter, mounted on a foie gras, you see, the pan deglazed with cognac and double cream. And it just, and everything, huge lobsters and big steaks and things flamed and glistening and clarified butter and just about everything, you know, and lots of wine being used and things. That's what it was all about, because it was ooh, ah.
He was absolutely top of the ratings in Britain. He was at the top of the ratings in the States, and he was at the top of the ratings in Australia. And for all I know, he may have been in Canada, New Zealand, and points west. But he was a world phenomenon.
The appetite for the galloping gourmet was huge. The schedule for Graham and Trina travelling around the world and raising a young family was punishing. In the end, something had to give.
We had huge amounts of money. It was just more than we needed to have. And all that faced us was we had 650 shows to make in a series. And we made 195 new shows a year. And there wasn't time to breathe.
Time passes. 1 hour and 40 minutes later.
Our kids, we posted notes to them on the refrigerator. We used to go in at 11 o'clock in the morning, get back at 11 o'clock at night, so we never saw the kids. And then our daughter tried to commit suicide, and she had a diary which had notes in it about blowing up my car, you know, with me in it, and trying to get a wiring diagram on how to do that. And so, obviously, this is not exactly what you would call a happy time.
And when you really think about it, the television, great success. But, oh, what a devastation to relationships and family and life, really, when you really think about it. But we came through.
With that also, a nice flame.
Many of Graham's meals were, of course, swimming in calories.
I want you to know that if you're believers and devotees, as I am, in the drinking man's diet, which is how I stay my sylph-like self, then you should be aware of the fact that this is absolutely nil. It doesn't contribute one single ounce to your girth.
You little liar.
He was the first and one of the very few television chefs to actually sit down and eat a meal on camera. Putting food into your mouth is not something that makes pretty television. And it wasn't the Nigella sort of doing the lascivious, you know, soft porn stuff. Or Jamie Oliver going, wicked, this is wicked.